Hello, hello. Welcome to Ready, Set, Action. Today you're joining Christina Whitmer, that's myself, and Deborah Horowitz. Today we're going to talk about AI tools for research, productivity, and content. Talk about what we know, what we think's going on, and some of the things that we've experienced. So we're looking forward to that today. So, hi Deb, how are you?
Hi, Christina. I am great. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm very excited about this topic. AI has been popping into all of our conversations, so I think it's appropriate that we do a little bit of a dive into some of the tools.
I
So,
don't think we can escape talking about it or working in it or finding out how to wrangle it so that, we can get the best out of it. So, yeah, I'm excited too.
I agree. So, because there's so many tools, you and I spoke, and we decided to try to put this into some groups to give some context for people. So, with that said, why don't you talk about tip number one? Sort of what's that grouping that we want to talk about?
Yeah, so tip number one is all about using research uh, or doing research with AI tools. And so I think, the one that's talked about the most these days is, of course, Chat GPT. And me being a small business owner, I look for as many free tools as I possibly can out there. So I naturally started to gravitate to Gemini, which is Google's version of Chat GPT, only because I found that the information was more up to date and had a level of accuracy to it that the Chat GPT free version did not offer. So, if you have not tried it, try it. I think that for me, the prompting was a lot easier. And I think obviously we all have to kind of play around and learn about how best to use prompts when we're using these tools. Um, but I really found that that information was um, it just flowed in a way that the Chat GPT did not. That's kind of hard to describe, but I think once you get into it, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. So I've tried it for research to look at, certain talent acquisition tools, tech tools that are out there, So having Gemini help me to understand what's the latest and greatest, and how can you do a comparison on those tools and really help me save so much time and effort in taking a look at how can I then consult with my clients on this and come with at least enough substance to help them understand the differences between some things that they might be exploring utilizing in the future, and then help them to start get some demos and that sort of stuff set up. And the other thing that I've tried is, looking at statistics from a research point of view. So,
Yeah.
like, how many licensed plumbers are there in the United States? If I have a client that is looking to hire plumbers, and try to do, more of a competitive analysis on that, I need to understand what is my starting point, right? The two other market research project tools that I have learned about recently, one is called Insight 7. That's INSIGHT 7.
Okay.
And that's really all about if you're doing market research that involves a lot of interviewing of different people, right? You can record those interviews, and then Insight 7 can actually create the transcripts for you. They can help you build out the buyer personas and all of that sort of stuff. So it's a
Interesting.
powerful tool, right? And then along those lines, that I really love because I'm constantly talking to organizations about the importance of competitive analysis. So Crayon is a tool for that. And that's just really looking at competitive insights. They have a feature that's called battleground, or what is it? Competitive battle cards,
Oh,
battle
yeah.
cards, and it really helps to bring talking points to life about how your organization might compare to the competition out there in the market, and what kind of helps you be unique in the space. So it really helps to create all of those messaging points to the audience. So that's just a few. Some of them you've probably heard of, some of them may be new to you, but I would definitely say, go in and play around. I mean, that's what I've been doing, right?
Mhm.
Is just play around and learn about the different tools and see what's going to work best for you or for your team.
Yeah, I definitely was not familiar with a few of those. But I was thinking, I guess it's kind of like look at things you need to do in your organization and then look at what tools could probably help you,
Yeah.
because the battle card stuff, that's awesome. Like doing, helping with the audience and the personas and things like that, that's awesome too. So it's kind of like, well, choose what you need and then kind of, dive in so you can choose the best resource. But those both sound really quite amazing. I do like the comparisons because, when you think about it, it's all online. All these stats are online. So it's nice to see that stuff, that type of stuff. One thing I thought interesting about what you said was I have many people who I've talked to, and they almost always say they like Chat GPT. Um, and I do also prefer Gemini. It's funny that you said that. So I think it's interesting. But what I think there's so many updates, right? They're constantly making updates. So I feel like these incremental improvements are happening so fast that, if there's something you don't like on one, it's possible the other one has just jumped and then vice versa. So I
Mhm.
feel like maybe there's something to learn from both. But I like the Gemini style. I also like that it's built within Google. So I feel like it could work with documents or different things that I want to work with. Um,
Right.
so I'm a fan of that one as well.
Yeah.
So,
I'm getting more comfortable with the prompts.
mhm.
And I think that's probably the biggest hurdle for a lot of people starting with AI to really um, get comfortable with it.
Mhm.
The first iteration that it returns for you may not be the ideal one, right?
Mhm.
So you just need to have the patience to help it refine the information that it's delivering to you through that prompt sequence, and getting really, really, more comfortable with how you're communicating to it. It is,
Right.
a large language model. So it's trying to please you and
Mhm.
give you what you need, but you really need to think about how concise and clear am I making these instructions.
Right. Yeah, and I think that because I've been looking for analogies in this space, and I've been talking about sort of that intern role, like because you do have to be like, if you think about it, if this AI is like your intern or your apprentice or some kind of assistant role, you're going to have to be very clear with what you want, what you expect, how you want to see the information, and then sort of guide them along as they, and I do love the fact that with Gemini, you can, in all of them, you can just say, sort of, if they give you 5 things, you can say, take another look at number 2 and tell me what might be another perspective on that. Like,
Yes.
it's very conversational when you think about it, because I don't have to restate things, right? I can say it's a running conversation. So it's like, hey, let's take a, I don't agree with number 2. Is there another way that people might be thinking of that? Or it is weird until you get
Yes.
comfortable with it.
Yeah. You actually are having a conversation with the machine. Yeah.
Mhm. Ooh, it's crazy.
Yeah. So, did you have anything else to add, or should we move on to number 2?
Yeah, I think we can move on. I think we'll see if there's any overlaps at the end that we need to
Mm,
touch on. So, yeah. So, tip number 2, I thought it was appropriate to talk about content creation with AI and overall content management, repurposing, reformatting, like all the different things that you can do with content. And so I'm just sharing two examples of tools that I've been using recently. So one is called Descript, so Descript, and that's part of it's from here, from you and I doing these live streams that I've taken some examples, but you can put a video in here and then you can get a full transcription of what's happening. So not just captions, you're actually getting a full transcription pretty quickly. And with some of the AI tools, you can hit buttons to say, okay, remove the filler words, right? So you and I might say, that kind of stuff. It'll just take those out automatically if you want it to, or you can sort of scrub through it line by line. It'll also shorten these gaps between sentences. So let's say you have a pause where you're thinking of something, it'll automatically shorten those. So those are some sort of AI tools that's just looking for opportunities to clean up things. In addition, just like, find and replace with Word documents, you can replace text on mass spaces and things like that. You can also work with it a little bit to rework things and add things. You could even try to, let's say you miss something or you want to add something, you can re-record in the middle of it. So that's not necessarily an AI feature, but it's all blended together to make it very comfortable. You can also add sound, AI voices, like all kinds of things that you want to integrate. So I really like that tool, and it's definitely part of our process. I use it every week now. And I think that there's other ways I will be using it. For example, once we have this entire stream done, and let's say we have a full transcription of it, it's something that my blog writer could write using, right? Could sort of take one of the tips, turn it into a blog. So I'm always looking for ways to repurpose some of this content. So that's another piece too, is once I have this piece, how can I repurpose it and push it out to other places? So that's one tool. I guess I'm trying to think of anything else. So it's sort of, video or audio, however you want to edit it, voiceover generation. It transforms content, it adds visual elements. All of this stuff a lot of it is powered with AI, and it's it's all about saving time. The other one is Opus, so OPUS, and that's another one for more social efforts for me. So let's take, we have this long form video. Well, this one's pretty wild. I would definitely encourage people to check it out. But by uploading anything, video, you can upload it with a URL or the file. It goes through it, and not only does it, this is all AI based because it goes through and it gives you about 10 to 15, you can choose lengths, right? You can sort of set your parameters, but it gives you these 30-second to 2-minute clips of the video. And not just that, it's actually, when you get the results of the clips, you see the top one, and they tell you it's top based on what you're talking about, the fact that it might be a trending topic, the fact that it's catchy and it's a good hook. Like, they actually do all these AI related factors to really help you decide it's so fast that it's really exciting. So then you can choose it, and then you can, if you want to, you can just take a quick edit. You can they'll add AI generated images if you want. You can add or remove copy, but 90% of the time it is spot on with what it chooses. And then the further you get down on the list, they might say, this is, this top one's at A, this one's a B, because maybe it's all good, but it's not as trendy, the topic. So it's up to you whether you want to use it. So that one's pretty wild. I think that's blows my mind. I guess that's a good way to say it. So
to have all of that information at your fingertips, to really, instead of sitting there for half an hour thinking, is this going to resonate? Do I need to tweak it some more? Do I, what should I talk about in the post above the clip,
Right.
that's going to kind of supplement what I'm putting in the clip. It's kind of like it's telling you exactly this is how you need to use it. This is
Hmm.
why. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and it has a social scheduler, which I'm not using within the tool,
Hmm.
but I have a feeling that that makes it even more seamless. So you've got the clip, and then you can push it to your social sites. So it's probably a great resource for that. I still use HubSpot for social scheduling, but what's crazy if you think about it is, I've got that clip of video. It's got these captions. I can add the images. I also have the text that it used. You can use AI to generate your social post, right? So I can actually just copy that transcript and say, I want a social post that's queuing up this content in quotes, and it's just going to pull up something and that I can tweak. So it's just, I mean, it's kind of crazy when you take thing to thing to thing and really think of how they can work together. It's very cool. And actually, what I'm finding out in my own personal workflow is now I'm actually waiting for things to upload, like, 5-10 minutes here. And I have to shift gears because I'm spending more and more time pushing something into a formula or a thing and waiting for it to spit out all this stuff. So I don't know if that sounds strange, but I'm actually having to think about my work. I have to wait and jump to something else and jump back. So, which is kind of funny for me. Um,
That's
but
interesting. It's
yeah.
good to know because we're so, as a society, we're just so impatient these days, right?
Hmm.
So to be able to understand that, okay, that's normal to expect that type
Yes.
of processing delay,
Hmm.
so we don't get completely frustrated by the tool, but we understand that this is how it's working, and the output is going to be worth the wait.
Right, absolutely. Because, obviously waiting 10 minutes to get 10 social posts of video clips that are all formatted ready, that's great, right? But
Yeah.
it's more just this, the mindset of it. So, and I think what's interesting, I'll add to this tip, is that you really have to look at these tools and think about the strengths that how they work together, right? So you think about what you might talk about in Gemini, like talk about what's important to marketing or sales or HR, like sort of how you gather that information. Then you create your story, your episode, whatever you're doing, and then you look at how you're repurposing it. You're using multiple tools, and you need to figure out where they excel the best, because I think a lot of these tools are trying to do many things.
Mhm.
Um, and they do, there's overlap, like even Descript
Yeah.
and Opus, there's overlap. But for this moment, at least, I'm using them for what I think they do best. And I don't even have enough time to learn all the things they can do, all the options out there. There's so much. So I think that's sort of the overall thing, is like start thinking about how do things work together.
Yes,
So
absolutely. And they're
yeah.
changing, like you said. They're continuously improving what these tools look like today. They're not going to look like that in probably 2 months' time. It's
Mhm.
just going to continue to morph and change for us. So we really have to just be able to go on that journey with the tools, right? And be able to figure out, is this long term going to be something that I'm going to use, or will it be a short term tool for me that, somebody else may invent something different in 2 months that looks better for what I need
Yeah.
it to be. Yeah.
Yeah, not unlike working with a team member, a junior team
Yeah.
member, where they are growing and evolving in their skills, and then you also you start to see what they're best at and where they're going to grow to as you develop it. So it's kind of cool. So anyway, with that, what do you think about tip number 3? What's on your mind for that one?
So I think it's all about productivity, right? All of these tools are helping us to just improve, whether it's to understand our overall writing style, and how we can continuously evolve our own capabilities when it comes to copywriting or whatever that case may be. But um, we spend probably so much of our week in meetings, right? And so having a transcriber that is automated, that has the capabilities. Now, there's a ton of them out there, right? I've used Zoom to recap sessions, and I think a lot of us probably started with Zoom just because it's been with us since COVID, you know. But there's Otter AI also, which I think kind of takes it, from a standpoint of letting you know who said what rather than just a summary type of format. So you can
Yeah.
really understand the players, right? And that within that conversation. But then there's Notion AI, and Notion AI is new for me. Excuse me, allergy season. And, you know, it can be great at helping teams, small teams, big teams, really get together and collaborate and brainstorm on content ideas. It can help with turning, remixing things like you were talking about, turning that content into blog posts, social media posts, do all of that type of work for you. One of the more interesting functions that I saw was the way that it can create case studies. So let's say that you have a new client that you've onboarded and you'd love to get a testimonial or case study from them, and so you set up a time to interview them on, any of your platforms, right?
Mhm.
You take the transcript from that and you throw it into Notion, and Notion will actually create the case study for you.
I
You
had
know,
no idea. That's pretty awesome.
and then you can go back in and make your minor edits or whatever to make sure that it captured everything correctly. But I mean, just think about the amount of time that can save you, because case studies are one of those things. I know when I was in sales, I was like the cookie monster for case studies. I always wanted more.
Yeah, true.
So I think if you're supporting a team, if you're in marketing, you're supporting a team, you want to know what's the quick and easiest way for me to get these things turned around and back out so that we can have more revenue coming in. So that would be one I would take a look at. Another one would be Fathom, which I think is really probably one of the best that's out there right now for just doing the summarization of the meetings. I like the way it can sync to the CRM. I know it can sync into HubSpot, which is a sweet spot for you probably
Mhm.
with everything that you do. But what I really loved about that was that it can also send the exact video clip that you want. So if you want to get something back to a client specifically as a follow-up note or whatever, instead of having them read the whole summary or whatever, you could just send them that particular part of the video clip at the end where you're summarizing, okay, you're going to do this and I'm going to do that, and that type of thing.
Right.
And then it's just, so much easier for them to take a look at the video and say, oh, yes, that's right. That reminds me that these are the things I need to get to Deb. So I really, really like that about Fathom.
I do too. That's the one I use, Fathom, at this time. I haven't tried Notion AI, but I definitely will be checking that out. Fathom is, I do like as the, if you're running a call, the ability to, click that highlight button or sort of differentiate between these things. And I've done it for a writer, right? So part of my status call might be, tell me a little bit about this blog we're going to write for you. What are you trying to say? Anything else? And I can sort of clip that out for the writer, and they don't
Oh,
have to
wow.
read through the whole call. It's really nice. And then they can see either the video or see the transcript of that moment. It's really, I do like that one a lot. And then, of
That's like
course,
having them in the meeting without them being in the
yes,
meeting. Yeah.
without wasting that time. Absolutely, I do like that one. And then I've seen, so no, I'm going to look at Notion AI for sure. I have seen some remix type features in HubSpot as well with their new content hub. and we're exploring a little bit of that, like taking something, whether it's a blog or something, and repurposing it into multiple things. So that whole remix is becoming quite a word, I think, of that a lot of people are using now for, what it can do. And certainly an AI feature, just like I was talking with Opus, where it's it's trying to intelligently look at the content and break it into buckets. But also, I don't know if all the remix tools are doing it, but the way Opus was saying this is an A plus because of these four things. Like, I bet you we're going to see a lot more of that, like how they judge the quality of the clip, because that's, otherwise you won't use it if it's just, random.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I love the way that you're looking at these tools as an intern. I would say, approach it as an intern, as a colleague, collaborator that is really helping you to kind of, save time, save energy, focus on the bigger stuff that these, LLMs cannot do for us, right? And let it kind of play in its own space, whatever tool you're using.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I like that. So it's that collaborative moment. I mean, honestly, and from working, remotely, working on my own office in my own space, it's a sounding board. There's a lot of things that it brings to anybody working as a solo entrepreneur, or,
Yes.
it's because it can be, it's not like it's lone. Well, to me, it's not lonely per se, but it can you can feel very isolated with how you make decisions about what's next, because so it's a friend.
It is a friend. Yeah, I think that's the way that we need to look at it, not be afraid of, it is not going to take our jobs in marketing at all. It's just going to really help us do our jobs so much better and so much faster, and be able to pivot with the organizations that we work with, because all of them are becoming more agile as well.
Mhm.
So we're going through
Yeah.
this industrial evolution, or
Mhm.
revolution, however you want to use the term, just like we have, you know, throughout the history of America, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
so this is just a new process.
yeah, I mean, if I was graduating high school, I'd be a little concerned, because some of those, anytime you think of like the intern, the early assistant, those roles, I understand people coming out of school, college now, they will be able to probably use AI better than we can, just based on some of their technology, comfort with technology. But I have to wonder about a writer's role, a junior designer, some of these things that I do see it doing. So maybe, hopefully, it opens opportunities for the people, the next, sort of generation of the workforce, to use it in a more strategic way, as opposed to just, hopefully it opens up that space for them to be more creative and use these tools, as opposed to just replacing some things. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think what it will do for those entry level roles, and where we're struggling as organizations right now with that, is that we're unclear the tasks to assign to those entry level positions. What is AI going to be able to do? And then what is left to be assigned to that entry level person coming into it? And then how do we change that role so we're still getting the 8 hours of productivity out of that individual, right? But the
Mhm.
job descriptions are going to have to change to kind of meet that nuance between what we can assign to AI, and what we need a human to look at from a critical thinking point of view, or process point of view that is not in the capability of the machine at this point.
I really like that. Yes. I think
Yeah.
that's we should put a pin in that for another episode, because like how to write a job description for this new era, like how would you, there's something there I think we should explore for anybody is how do you describe what kind of person you want as they use those tools, as they, how do they take those to another level? I like that. So.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, that I think was brought up on a call that you and I were on was that they were saying that the people that will be most successful at using AI right now or the people aged 40 plus. And that's because of the experience level that we already have doing our jobs. And we are better prepared to prompt the AI to give us the output that we need it to give. And where an entry level person coming into it, yes, they've always been digital, they don't know anything other than that, but they don't have the role knowledge or the industry knowledge or that experience that is really going to help them set AI up for success in output. So it's interesting. This is just such a fascinating time to be in the workforce and to have these types of conversations happening, right? Because we're going through that evolution that others before us, had to endure. And a call earlier today I had, they were actually saying that in any of these types of evolutions in the past, whether it was the Industrial Revolution or whatever it was, there was actually a higher creation of jobs as an outcome of that, rather than everybody's concerned about it eliminating jobs. It doesn't. It just changes what's necessary for the job, but it actually ends up creating a whole bunch of new opportunities. So, there's a lot of positives I think that we can gain from adopting these tools.
Absolutely. I am looking forward to seeing that evolve as well. So good deal. So I will close us out here. I appreciate this conversation, always enjoying it. So thanks everybody for joining us today. I hope you check us out next time for Ready, Set, Action with Deborah Horowitz and Christina Whitmer. You can follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or podcast platforms such as Spotify and more. We will see you next week.
See you.